And we're on. All right.
Are you
Thank
sure?
you. Yeah, yes, 100%.
Oh yeah, look, there it is.
There it is. Okay, here we are. Another round. We made it. We survived a month and we survived another video game from the Wheel of Doom. I have myself here with Colin, Coffee Chris, Holden, Coffee Crisp, Super, and Darth. And we're here to discuss Faxanadu, an NES banger, or maybe not, originally released here in the United States August 9th. This game came out before I did. August 1989.
Ancient.
Yeah, and that's the year and month I was born.
Damn.
Oh wow.
So you have an affinity with it, is what you're saying?
Move on.
Okay, of course. But yes, it is an action role-playing platform. Jesus, what a description! Video game
Jesus?
by Jesus and Hudson Soft for the Nintendo Entertainment System, also known as the Famicom in Japan. I like these kinds of games. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not gonna go into my spiel. So it was interesting to land on this type of game for our second game. But Chris, I believe you wanted to start us off in your initial beginning thoughts.
Sure. Yeah, I hadn't played this game before. I'd heard about it. I'd heard the name. Saw the box art always stuck out for me for some reason. I kind of knew its reputation as like a hidden gem on the system. I'd never played it. So the only thing I really knew about it going in was when Holden said it's like a Zelda 2 clone. And I am a known Zelda 2 enjoyer, a Zelda 2 sympathizer. So it was pretty interesting knowing that. And my first impression of the game was kind of surprised just how much of a Zelda 2 clone it actually is. I think it came out the same year, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a little after, I believe.
Yeah, so that was pretty surprising because it's, at least on the surface, it's very much
Yeah,
Zelda 2.
it is very Zelda 2. Like looks, feel, like kind of premise, and like even the pause menu, like you see on the screen, like it is.
Yeah, the way you select magic and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
it is like dang.
So my fear was that it was going to be like an open world, extremely confusing, inscrutable open world sort of game. And I was pretty relieved to find out that it's actually pretty linear and straightforward in comparison to something like Zelda 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't get into specifics so much, but I am curious to hear everyone's thoughts on this one because I guess overall, I think this game is, unlike Zelda 2, an extremely joyless piece of shit. I hate this game.
Wow. Okay, here we go. We knew the fists were gonna start flying, but
Wow.
thank you, Chris, for starting us off with the take. I like it.
Joyless piece of shit.
As,
Yeah.
as opposed to jolly shit.
Yes.
Okay.
You know.
Zelda 2 is maybe a jolly shit.
Yeah, okay, I can feel that. Our newcomer, young Darth.
Hello.
Darth, would you like to just kind of give us your initial thoughts here?
Yeah, so I didn't really grow up playing much of like the NES. I didn't play the SNES at all. So I didn't really have very much familiarity or like very much affinity with these older types of games. But the one NES I ever did have, the games that I always played were Zelda 2 and Contra. So this actually didn't feel like too much of a departure from that. I found the game to be in a lot of ways more restrictive and a bit less soulless than I felt Zelda 2 was, which may be like totally nostalgia blinding. But I think I agree with Chris's sort of outward feelings about it, his sort of surface feelings about it, because I feel like I was yearning for something like Zelda 2, and I feel like it didn't measure up in pretty much every single way. That's about it.
All right, Colin,
That's
Holden, Super.
Two joyless pieces of shit we got.
I think Darth was a little like less harsh, but maybe on the same.
It's true. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry for comparing it, but it's like, I mean,
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're gonna have direct comparisons to Zelda 2.
I can go next. I don't really have anything specific lined up here, but it's funny. I feel like I am the oldest person on the call here, so of anyone here, I guess like just age wise, I probably would have had the best opportunity growing up to be around games like this and games on this platform. You know, the Nintendo itself, and I didn't and wasn't, and so I find that anytime I go back and play a good old NES game, it is just not what I want to be doing because like the DNA of games back then, they're just mean. They're just hard, you know? And I don't know, so much like for me, I feel like I kind of agree with what Chris and Darth were saying from a high level, like joyless piece of shit is kind of harsh, but I definitely felt like by the end of it, I was like, oh man, I can't wait for this to be over. And that's not to say it was all bad or anything, but I felt like in almost every way, it was excessively punishing and outright unfair. And of course, it's a game made in 1989, so it is what it is, right? But and we'll get into the specifics of it, but this not to say I didn't enjoy parts of it. Like I thought certain elements were actually really cool, but generally speaking, my time with it was, I don't really know what the right word is. Pretty much like I said, the longer it went, the more I wished it were over already at this point. And I have a few specific instances to talk about as we get into like the nitty gritty of it later on.
Yeah, I feel like everybody kind of, like at least at the moment, like kind of ranging from didn't have the greatest time to I wasted my time playing this garbage. Holden,
Miserable.
super.
I'll go if you want.
Sure.
So this was my game pick. I'm sorry I made you guys do
Don't
a slog.
apologize.
it was a good one. It was a good pick. I like it.
I'm glad you
Yeah, good pick.
A joyless piece of shit.
No, but I was interested in this game because I mentioned Zelda 2 inspiration, or not inspiration, but it's similar, right? This cart was in my house growing up, and no one even knew about it, which is kind of mysterious. I never even popped it in the NES as a kid. But anyway, one of my friends recommended me this game, basically because it's Zelda 2 and it has some interesting systems, which we'll touch later. What was I gonna say? Yeah, it's like, I guess when I started playing it, I put like 30 minutes in. I was like, dude, this is pretty rough. And then the second time I played it for like 2 hours. And then the third time I played it, I sat down for like 7 hours straight, and I was really engaged by the end. Which I found kind of interesting because it's kind of the opposite experience of what you're saying, Klon. But yeah, I mean, there's like jump king levels of like, oop, you got hit by an enemy and you're going flying through screens, and you're committed to your jump, and it's not as smooth as Zelda 2, but there are a lot of, I'd say there are more things I could talk about enjoying than disliking.
Mm-hmm.
And the things I dislike, yeah, game could use some more playtesting, but yeah, I thought it was a really ambitious title for the system, and just a lot of insightful things I'm excited to talk about later. But yeah, that was kind of my general thoughts.
All right, super. Would you like me to go first, or would you like to?
Well, I'll go.
Okay.
I enjoyed this game for the most part. There were a few things that pissed me off a little bit. I found that for the most part, in my opinion, it was fair. It was straightforward. Once you learn how the game works and how to fight certain enemies, and it's you know what to expect basically. To me, there's some blind things that are unfair, or like screen transitions where you're immediately hit and there's almost nothing you can do about it.
Dude.
Oh,
That really is the only part of the game that I thought was unfair. to me, this game was very straightforward. It was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be, and there wasn't really. It's very linear. I didn't think it was going to be linear, but it is. It's very linear. You just, I expected something like Zelda 2, where there's an overworld. You
Same.
wander around, you find stuff that is, off the beaten path. I don't know. To me, like, I know, like what Colin said, he's not an NES guy, but NES is, I can't describe how much I love the NES with words. And when I play games like this, I just take them at face value. I'm just some dude with a sword and armor fighting monsters in the castle, and it's cool, And I enjoyed it. It's pretty punishing, but like I said, once you start to know what to look for and where the enemies are and how to fight specific types of enemies, like these little hopper dudes, for instance, like there's a way to, like, you hit them and then back up and let them jump, hit them, back up, let them jump. There's a lot of different enemies that have different patterns and stuff, and you learn them. I think once you get going, you get it's a lot easier. Like once you get used to the quirks, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
It is rough because it's an older game. There's certain things that could be changed, quality of life stuff. Like, for instance, you can't sell items in any shop. It has to be the shop you bought it from. So I was stuck with a key for like the whole fucking game that I couldn't use.
Right.
Okay,
No.
the same thing happened to me, so I had a wasted inventory slot.
An inventory slot that was dead, basically.
Was it a jack key?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had two
fuck
of them.
that shit.
I guess so, too.
So
But
I
to
don't
me, go ahead.
no, are you done? I just wanted to ask you a question.
Go ahead. Ask me a question.
So, I guess it's two things. I guess one's an observation. I found the learning what the enemies do and the pattern recognition and how do I fight this enemy, to be one of my favorite parts of the game. But there were certain enemies that were just like, I felt like they were utter bullshit. Anyway, the question is, would you have preferred an overworld? in
No.
this?
No,
Okay.
I would not. I
Okay.
think this game, I think an overworld would have just been, it would have felt tacked on.
Interesting.
know.
Okay.
It would have been too much because there's already enough going on in this game, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I think so.
To me, the progression felt very satisfying. Getting new armor and new shield and new weapon, that was very satisfying. Like things like that, especially since they look so different.
Mhm.
Like you really feel like you're getting more powerful and progressing, and I like that a lot. I don't know. I enjoyed the game to a certain extent. I did have to take breaks from anger at certain points, but I don't know. Walking away from it and looking at it as an experience, like a little. I spent time with the game and had an experience with it. I would say it was overall positive.
It's interesting. I have a take in between, or it's like a combination of Colin's and yours, Super, where as far as NES goes, like I absolutely understand, like it's super classic. It has amazing games. Like my first game is actually Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES, but right after that, I played Super Mario World and just played Super Nintendo Forward. So it's like I have none of that NES nostalgia. Like I really never played the games. Like I had to come back to play them all when I was older. So that nostalgia factor for those games is just not there. So a lot of the times it's more frustration. Like I'm not like, oh, this is an NES game. I'm like, oh, these fucking NES games, god damn it.
Yep.
Like, but this game was actually, it seemed softer than that. Well, I mean, it is 89, so it's one of the later ones. And I am a Zelda 2 enjoyer, and like Super was saying, like how linear it is actually feels nice. Like the progression is smooth, and a lot of these games have that annoyance of you have to have like sheer blind luck to bump into or just wander around enough to figure out what you need to do. I never once felt that in this game. Like
Nope, same
as
here.
Yeah, I
long
was
as
curious about that. Nice.
yeah, as long as you talk to the like NPCs, like in the houses, every town you went into, like some would tell you some garbage, and you're like, is this garbage important? Should I remember this? Specifically, the lady who says, remember my name. And I'm like, and her name literally never comes up. But sometimes you have to backtrack after you get an item for their dialogue to change. So that did hang me up one time. But I mean, I guess after I was frustrated originally that they didn't say it, I guess it is cool that they have almost like reactive dialogue in a game kind of this old.
Yeah.
But I liked this game. Like, I had fun playing it. Like, there was something, like, it made me laugh super when you said you had to take a rage break, because something happened to me that I'll talk about, like, when we talk about gameplay, that I had to put the controller down and just walk away, because it was just, But other than that, like, small incident, and then some bugaboos, like you're talking about, like, enemies off screen, it's just, like, you know, they probably didn't intend for that, and unfortunately it played out that way, because I noticed it happened a lot more later in the game than it did in the beginning. But overall, like, the progression was smooth. The gameplay was an NES game. It was a little chunky, a little clunky, but it was fun to play. And like Super was saying, the weapons were different, so you had to like relearn how you felt with enemies. Like, it for as much as Chris saying joyless poo poo, like, I feel like there were some people who took some care and time to make this a decent video game. But
Character portrait designers.
Oh God, some of
No, that's so sick though.
That one guy has a cigarette.
He
in an
does.
NES game.
I know.
They're really
Yeah, I saw
shiny. You
them
guys
on
how
that.
shiny they were? Like,
Oiled up, dude.
glistening, dude.
Oil
Could
king.
I add something just on, because some people have mentioned this thing? It's
yeah.
like I also didn't grow up with NES. I was a SNES kid and had to come. Like, I'm younger than a few of you guys, and I came back to NES games later. I love a lot of NES games. Like, I'm with Super. It's an amazing console. I love tons of NES games, and my dislike for this game doesn't stem from it being an NES game. Like, it has little to do with its age. Like, I like old games. I think everyone knows that I'm kind of a
Boom boom at heart.
yeah, I'm a boomer. So I don't think that's exactly why I hate this game as much as I do.
That's
Hope we
fair.
can get into gameplay and stuff.
All right. Anybody
I
like
just
to
wanna
kick us
do-
off on gameplay?
Not necessarily gameplay, but one point you made, and I don't know that we're going to come back to it, but the reactive dialogue, I thought that was super cool. And what it makes me think of is like I feel like the first game I really noticed that happening in was in one of the earlier Dragon Quests I played, maybe like 3 for the Super Nintendo, that version of it, or something like that. So it was after this, right? But coming and playing this game and seeing that was like one of the first positive things I wrote about this game. I was like, that's super cool. I love it when games do that. Even like the random jobbers in the houses, not just the main plot people like the king or whatever. They have different things to say based on stuff you've done. I just thought that was neat.
I agree. That adds a lot to video. I agree. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it definitely makes for like an actual world.
It feels like like what I'm doing matters, and which is funny because like I wrote later on, and I don't mean to jump us around or anything, but like toward the end of the game, I wrote in my notes that like I have no idea what the fuck my character is supposed to be doing. Like, I know what I'm doing in the game, but I don't know what the story is.
Yeah,
I don't know, and I
Did
don't
you read
care.
the instruction booklet? I don't remember reading it either, but it might have.
I skimmed through it.
There's story in the game.
No, there
there's
is, and I talked to all the NPCs, and I like. What I mean is like the breadcrumbs mechanically were there. I knew I have to go to this town and I'm looking for this key, and I'm ultimately fucking gonna fight some alien dude at the end or whatever. But like in the moment, I was like, "Why? Who is my guy? Why am I playing as my guy? Why is he cool? Other than he looks like Ultraman at the end."
I liked when the lady called me handsome. Did you guys get that?
Yeah.
No, they
Anyway,
give off vibes that you're like some famous
Dude.
warrior coming
Dude.
back.
Yeah.
At the
Dude, you start
beginning
off
of the
with your
game,
underwear on.
your hometown gets invaded by these creatures.
Yeah, and I
you're-
think you're coming back, right?
Yeah, like you're a traveler and you came back to like this elven and dwarven conflict.
Yeah, the
fuck the
space
dwarves.
rock made the dwarves go crazy.
Mhm.
You know, it's funny that we were playing this, and like at the same time, I was also playing RE4, and like it kind of like reminded me
Oh
of
yeah,
RE4
there's some overlap. Huh?
because like the Plaga rock that they mined up, and then
Right.
the space rock that came and made the dwarves crazy.
I
I
thought
just
that
thought that was a funny little parallel.
I thought that's probably definitely the earliest instance of a sort of like I guess like almost like an eldritch influence being like a
Right,
villain
right.
in a
Mhm.
video game, which I really appreciated, and I thought that area was just the coolest part of the whole game.
I thought it had pretty crazy world building for an NES game.
Yeah, I agree with
Pretty
that.
decent, yeah.
Like by the time you're going back to going up the misty forest and you're seeing the dwarves there and
Yeah,
people
hated that
agree.
place.
corrupted, the towns are dinky in comparison. Like add some feel to it.
It's
thought it was cool.
part of a series, right?
Yeah, it's Dragon Slayer.
I don't know anything about it.
It
Yeah, I
is?
guess it's this game like it was like on the Famicom, and they made a bunch of other ones. There's like I think like horror, and there's like some like reboots too that came out in the 90s.
Yeah, that
Check
was
it
the
out.
thing. They were made by
It's not really a reboot.
Falcom, but this was published by Falcom and developed by Hudson Soft. And that was the other reason I wanted to play it, but then I found out it was just Hudson Soft.
Yeah, the reason it's called Faxanadu is because the game is it's based off Dragon Slayer 2, which is called Dragon Slayer 2 Xanadu, and it's called Faxanadu because it's a combination of Famicom and Xanadu. It's like
Right.
Xanadu on
Famicom
the Famicom.
Xanadu.
Isn't
Yeah.
it Faxanadu?
Yeah,
Or I'll
if
say
you
it
break it down
wrong.
that way. But we can't say that. That's weird, right?
Yeah, you can't say that on stream.
Yeah.
You trying to get us banned?
Sorry.
I just got it. Did you guys just get the cease and desist?
Yeah, well, we'll deal
Open
with
your
that after
emails.
the fact.
I'm
Oh,
dead.
Yeah.
I died.
Also,
They
I'm
killed me.
happy to hear there's a lot of varied opinions on this game. I was kind of because of my reaction to it, I kind of expected a lot more of what I was thinking. But
Well, you and Colin are in the same boat pretty much. Colin was just trying to not be as harsh sounding.
not be an asshole about it.
So, I had fun for most of it. It's just the parts that I didn't like, I really didn't like.
That
Mhm.
sounds a lot like the shit.
Yeah, there's some parts of the game that made me not want to play it anymore.
Well, I
That's
feel
for
like-
sure.
what were your guys' biggest gripes, if I
Well,
may ask?
that's
I
what I'm
got-
gonna
I
say.
gotta-
This is definitely a good transition into what I feel like may be the biggest gripe for everybody is like the core of the gameplay.
I gotta let out a stinker here.
Lay it out.
This may have just been a skill issue or whatever, but I found the boss fight against fucking King Dwarf motherfucker, whatever his name is, to be total bullshit,
Mhm.
zero fun having, jank baloney. The entire look at what just happened on Danny's screen. That was me for like an hour.
that
Oh, I
boss?
just missed it actually. Which
not
which
that,
boss?
not
The
that
first
guy,
flying one.
but
Oh.
the leader of those guys.
Colin, did you use an hourglass on him?
I did, and I feel like it didn't work.
Really?
I used 2, dude.
I used the hourglass and he landed and kept shooting shit at me.
That
And-
same
Oh,
thing
then it
happened
was
to me.
not working for you then.
What made it worse is that I
He's talking about
forgot.
a different boss.
I'm not
the
talking about the
first-
blue one. I'm talking about like like toward the very end of the game.
The
Yeah,
one that you get the final sword from, Dragon Slayer.
Yeah. If you use the hourglass on him, the fireballs stop, and you can just put him in the
No.
corner.
It
Not
didn't
that
work for
bad.
me either.
Not
Yeah.
that
You guys
bad.
No, he'll
Yeah.
still fly, but the fireballs will stop.
Oh, he was cooking me.
No, you guys are thinking of a different boss.
I don't think so.
The one
no,
that you
'cause-
get the final sword from.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The hourglass worked for you. It didn't. He stopped shooting fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
He just went wild for me too.
He
Not for
didn't.
me. No, it did nothing. It literally.
Did we
did
play
nothing.
different versions?
You guys want to know the secret? You gotta just like defend on those fireballs, right? Using
That was
magic
that's
shields.
what I was gonna say is that I didn't have the fucking magic shield because
Oh, why did you not have the magic shield,
I
Clown? What were you
forgot.
doing?
I don't know, man. I'm an idiot. He was roasting
no.
me. It
Oh,
was so
God.
Like,
Because if you had enough potions, you might be okay with a shield.
I had to go in there with like 7 potions.
Yeah, that's fucked. You can't jump
And-
over them. You can't.
What I found is that like if you space and like do frame perfect jump attacks on him, you can kind of like get him in the corner and
Mm.
spam attack and
Very
to really
perfect.
stick it to him. but it's a high DPS race when you're getting cooked on the fireballs.
Yeah.
Colin was
It's
doing the
very-
hard mode for the optional loot.
It was very
The,
frustrating.
What's the I forget what the magic spell is called, but it's the one that like shoots upward diagonally.
Yeah, tilt.
Tilt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it
Tilte.
was great that I
I
didn't
used that,
have it. Yeah.
and like he died like it. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you hit with the sword and cast tilt as you like swing the sword, it knocks him back for another sword swing and you can cast again. I killed him in like 3 hits. I was like, what?
Yeah, same here. He
I
just died
didn't.
instantly.
So you didn't have the magic shield or tilt?
No, dude.
Good
Damn.
God, good God, Colin.
Fuck. But
I
at
don't
least you
know
got
what
the
I'm
helmet
doing.
afterwards, bro. At least you got the
How
helmet.
did you do it?
That paints a bigger story or picture.
How did you win?
I'm so sorry.
Like I said, just a whole bunch of potions and just
And a jack key.
Oh,
pain and
Did you
suffering.
leading for the? How are you doing the boss runs? If I don't mind asking, like, did you like set up like your own like save outside the castle, or did you like
They
actually?
u- they
Oh yeah,
use-
did you guys even find the town in there?
yes.
yes,
Mm,
I thought that was
mm.
cool.
I'm curious if anyone missed that, because when I walked in there, I was like, oh, that would be terrible to miss.
I
Yes.
don't think I found a town in there.
I
Yeah,
drew
there's
my
a
own
town,
maps when we
like-
played this.
A handful of screens before that boss fight.
You got This is the type of game where you got to draw a map.
Yeah.
I
I
came
used a
very
guide.
close
I
to
w-
drawing
I
a
was-
map.
I was gonna say the game has really good landmarks for an S game. I never got lost personally.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't even in the
Well,
final levels. I didn't feel
yeah.
compelled to draw a map, but I can see why. Like
The
so they
final
start to loop in some
castle-
areas.
Wraps vertically and horizontally.
Mm, mm.
So
I
you
just
it,
got
like,
lucky. I think I just got lucky because I'm usually pretty terrible at navigating.
Me too, me too, Chris. But I actually also didn't really find I got lost very often. There's not really that much space between like towns, and it's like they said, really linear. So
Since we were talking about the Dragon Slayer, like the sword that you get, did anybody else have the frustration of getting the battle helmet and the battle shield
I
and
was
just
spamming
not
it.
being able to equip them and being like, what the fuck? But then as
Yeah.
soon as I got one and couldn't equip it, got irritated, and I was like, whatever. And then I got the other one and I got irritated again, and I was like, there's something I'm missing here. And I went back to the town and happened to talk to somebody, and they're like, when you get both these, you need the Dragon Slayer to equip them. And I was like, oh, so I have a note that says fucking items can't be equipped, and then the next note is never mind, dude said I need the sword.
Skill issue.
So
Yeah, that was silly. It kind of relates though to one of the game's cool points was that there was a sprite for every piece
Yes.
of
Yep.
equipment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that was cool.
There's
as fuck.
even a hitbox difference on the sword and the dagger.
Yeah, that
Um,
is cool.
Fucking massive.
But I feel like they did that for like maybe technical reasons. Like let's just group them all into one set of equipment.
Mhm.
But I don't
And
know.
I was literally crying for like 10 minutes trying to equip items in the shop.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, why isn't it working?
Oh,
You
yeah,
have to
that's
be
a
in like
weird
a
decision, too.
combat area.
That was dumb. That just on the topic of equipping things.
Mhm.
They're like not even in your inventory in the shop. Like, did I buy this? Where is it?
Yeah, that is a really dumb thing, especially when you encounter enemies in houses. In
Oh my
some screens,
goodness.
you just can't attack them because
Mhm.
your fists do nothing. That's really stupid.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And you had to use like houses, and in every house with an enemy in it, there is nothing there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
so
literally no
there's-
point.
There's no
Yeah.
point. I would say probably for me, for like bringing it back to like core gameplay, what bothered me the most about it, and I played like the OG Castlevania, but the committing to the jump
Mhm.
for me feels so bad. Feels
Yeah,
so bad.
tough.
And I think that it takes away a lot of what I think is really cool about the combat in Zelda 2. Because, like, really, whenever it comes to how you're able to mix up your attacks in this game, I only found 3 ways, basically. One was to, like, jump and, like, immediately attack. One was to jump and then obviously, like, attack at some point on the way down. And the third way, which I thought was at least kind of cool that it existed, you could slash and jump at the same time, kind of do, like, a rising slash. I thought that was cool. But I really didn't like how like restricted the combat felt, because I'm just gonna keep like comparing it to Zelda 2, but I think that your ability to move within your jump, and furthermore even do like crouching slashes in your jump, makes the combat in that game feel a lot more interesting, and it felt just much more static in Faxanadu. Like the first couple fights, first couple screens, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm fighting enemies, and there's a few different things I can do. Even though there were different enemies, I felt that part of the gameplay kind of got stale. So yeah, I just felt like I wasn't able to be as like modular, kind of like in Melee, where you can kind of like mix around when you time your attacks and where you do your attacks. There wasn't that creativity in a lot of your approaches, and there was spacing, and that was still good. But
So Darth, would you say the inability to DI while you're doing
no.
your attack?
yes, DIing while after jumping, yes, I would say.
Okay, okay.
I'm leaving.
So one follow-on point to that, Darth, I think that's a really keen observation, and I agree completely. And more for me, like if you take that one step further, it just meant that there were angles of attack that were completely indefensible, and even more than that, it was like you could walk into a room and you had zero way to defend at the start. Like you were either just gonna have to try to fight from a corner and eat a hit, or run through the enemy and get to it like mid-ground, right? Where you
There are a
could
lot
yeah,
of ladders
totally.
like that too.
Yeah.
The amount
oh
of
my
it-
god.
Yeah,
Super
the amount of
fucking
times you
annoying,
walk into a
you know?
screen, instantly get hit.
Yeah.
And then in Zelda 2, you also got introduced to like the down slash and the upward slash, which added just a lot even more like ways to mix up the fighting environment, which I felt this game definitely lacked. And then also on the sort of case of being defensive, like the final, like the big boss who shoots like multiple fireballs, it would have been way more interesting if I could sort of like weave in and out of those rather than having to commit to a jump. I'm sure I could have done it frame perfectly to dodge the fireballs, but you can't do it while standing still. You'll just get hit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you could sort of like jump and sort of get over one fireball, and then because you're holding right, sort of get over the second fireball just fast enough to jump over the third one, that would have been more interesting, I think.
As you were talking, Darth, a couple minutes ago, like I was watching Danny's stream, and the way he was like flubbing those jumps across the gaps, that was one of my
momentum.
biggest issues at the start. Like
Oh,
the
yes.
precise jumps, and then just watching the combat again. It's like I agree entirely with what you're saying, but maybe it's like the entire feel of this game just feels awful.
Yeah.
Yes, comparing it to Zelda 2 because it's a direct comparison.
Yeah.
Zelda 2 feels amazing. Like it's really fun to control, and this game just everything about it is fucking awful. And
One
the way
thing. Sorry.
I was gonna say, talking about the walking onto a screen and getting instantly hit, that happens so often. It's just so aggravating.
Mhm.
Ladders are such a nightmare in this game. There's so many spots, like you're walking up a ladder, I'm pretty sure you can't avoid getting hit at all. Anytime, like, because the way enemies track onto you, they follow you constantly.
Yeah,
That's
and they'll
one
stand
of
on top of the ladder.
the enemy like patterns. There's just like mindless,
There are certain
thoughtlessly
enemies,
placed.
there are enemies, Chris, that to that point will also like read your input. They'll only move when you move.
Yep.
And so like there was one specific ladder toward like the last 10% of the
Mhm.
game.
I know exactly the one.
And
Yep.
like you're going up this ladder into a screen transition, and there's a fucking blue guy.
There's a
with
blue knight who I have
Yeah.
a note about that.
Yeah,
that-
says-
that
Down to the
asshole,
area,
like
you can't get back up.
Yeah, you literally cannot.
You literally
You
can't
actually,
get
you
back
actually
up.
can.
I
You actually
got
can.
back up. I
Oh,
just,
did you?
I just
There's-
held up
yeah.
or whatever and mashed
I
attack
just died.
and got enough frame perfect inputs to get a few attacks out and kill him, but it took a minute, like
Yeah.
I
So the way
just died.
Mhm.
It started
Yeah.
over.
the way that it works, if you inch up like just one teeny tiny input at a time, eventually your character will
You can stand.
up at the top.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you can start attacking, and that was ridiculous. I found that out because there was a healing enemy underneath there, so I spent like 50 minutes because I was using like save states, but I was still being like honor bound with them.
yeah,
Or if I died, I'd go back. So I was like, and I've been like, I think I'd just done some like grinding or something, and I was like, dear Lord, I must find a way out. I didn't have, I considered using my boots, but I was too stingy. One thing I will say though about the movement, because I think that's just important in these types of games, 2D games, right? Important that you can move. I did think it was cool how the more that you moved, the faster you got.
Yeah,
That was
like,
really cool
and
to
it
me.
helped your jump too.
Yeah.
Like when Chris mentioned those tight jumps, I had to realize that you do get that like boost jump.
get
Yeah.
P speed, dude.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then furthermore, just like sort of my like final piece, I guess, about like the combat, which was the biggest thing for me. There's some bads, like I said. One good thing that I thought was cool was it added a risk and reward aspect to the game because if you attacked closer, you could get 2 hits in,
Mm-hmm.
which put a little bit of nuance into your spacing with the enemies, which I thought made,
Yeah.
which is something it has over Zelda 2 where it doesn't really matter.
Pretty sure that was not an intentional mechanic.
Well,
Yeah.
it still worked out to make the game, I think, the combat a little bit more interesting.
Okay,
That's
that's
fair.
fine.
I wrote
That's
that
fine.
was like an example of the jank Famicom mechanics being like a double-edged sword. You know, you can get fucked by the enemies, but you can also like land a 6th landing slash.
It's a
for
mechanic.
momentum.
It's a mechanic.
You know,
Yeah.
get a double hit, fuck them up.
Did you know that combos in the original Street Fighter 2 were a glitch?
No, interesting.
It's true.
No, I thought, that's my feel on like a core mechanic.
One thing it turned out to be a major system of the game, which was really cool. Like in one specific sequence where I kind of liked the keys until later in the game.
Yep.
Because like that one part where you have to find the Joker key to fight one of the dwarves to turn on one of the fountains, like that was super cool. It was like, oh shit, a Joker door. But then they just became annoying because this was a skill issue, personal. There was one point where I thought I needed wing boots for something because I was a little stuck. So I had to travel from one town back to another. And I needed 3 king keys to do that. Because when you go through a door, it closes behind you and relocks. So that was fucking miserable. Because one time, this is a separate thing, I went and opened a queen door. Like there's a door that requires a queen and a jack, and you use the jack to get to the queen. I accidentally walked through the queen door. There was an enemy, and I hit up to cast magic.
I
Went
did the
back
same
through the
thing.
door, had to get another jack and queen key, and I was like, oh my god.
That happened to me 3 times in the game.
Oh
I
shit.
I was so frustrated.
I started screenshotting my passwords like for that moment, like, all right, I got my keys, because I did the same exact thing and went, well, never gonna hit up right after going through a door ever
Mhm.
again.
I actually save stated before every door specifically to avoid that mechanic, which I thought was stupid.
So there was a point when I was like getting at my most frustrated. I think it was around the mist area was when I just started loading passwords. Like if I died and I'd used keys, like I just started loading passwords, like having to reset the game and re-input my password multiple times because it was easier to just have all my items saved than it was to actually backtrack and get the keys. I knew the keys were bad news like at the start of the game because that was when I first realized that once you use them, you like the door relocks and you have to go buy a key again. I kind of had in my notes, like I was just like, oh, that's kind of annoying at the start. You have the first jack door. You have to do it twice. But then that became one of my major issues with the game is just the fucking keys.
Yep.
The way, like if they had just been single use, then it might have been okay and would have been totally fine. But the fact that I got locked out of multiple doors because I accidentally hit up and then have to backtrack as much as you do, it's really poorly designed, I think.
Yeah, my pinnacle fuck these keys moment was that area I was talking about, the 3 king keys, and I thought I had to go backtrack for wing boots, and when I was making the backtrack, there's this one jump in the tree area where there's an enemy. You normally come at it from the left side. There's an enemy on the right across a gap, and it's super simple because you kill the enemy, like make the jump. I tried to make that jump, and one of those flying diagonal enemies came and hit me down into the hole, which put me 2 keys back, and I had to backtrack the whole area, use the last key that I had to buy 3 more keys to backtrack to wing boots that I ended up not even needing. And I was
This costs
like,
money. This costs money you have to grind for.
and
dude.
I had to put the controller down. I was like, oh my god, fuck everything I just did, because it took me like 40 minutes, and I was like, that was a waste of my life.
I had to do the same thing. I had to backtrack for those keys specifically.
Yeah,
Like
I
the
loot.
town next to it didn't sell them or something.
Yep.
Sorry. Holden.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I loop back to the first couple areas with wing boots. Like, well, I'm gonna get all these secrets, and then there's nothing. I'm like, I just blew through 3 wing boots. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Did
all
you
my
get-
money.
did you guys ever use the Mattock for other than for the
No,
one
it's only
thing?
for the one
No, I
thing.
had one burning in my inventory. The whole
Yeah,
game.
so did I. Like I always had one. And I was
They
like,
sell
man, I'm
it in
gonna
a
use
later
this.
town too. Those
Yeah.
assholes.
There,
That was
is,
rude.
there is another part where you can
There
use
is?
it, but it's optional.
Mhm.
Tell me
I don't
about
even
more.
remember, huh.
What do you do in that? What
It's just a little brick wall like the one you encounter. I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's just a red potion.
Hey, those are
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, true. I mean, you know.
So
Can you throw away the Mattock if it's in your inventory?
No.
You can't throw anything away.
You
have
could go back to the beginning and consume
You
it.
have
to-
by-
Yeah, you can only sell items at the store you bought it from, which to me seemed like it's an oversight. Or I don't know if that's an intentional design choice. Then I mean, you have to remember that back in this era, people didn't own as many games, and games couldn't be as long due to technological limitations, right? So they had to think of ways to extend playtime and therefore extend value in the consumer's eyes, right? Because you beat a game right away. It's like back then games were the same price as they are now, but back then $50 or to $60, $70 was a lot more money than it is now, right? So
Mhm.
like you had to get your fucking money's worth out of the game. And I don't know, I think back then like games were different, right? We didn't have certain types of games with all these quality of life things, and like nowadays games like it's being honed. Like it's even still like certain like design things are like newer and modern, and things become archaic as time goes on. Back
Yeah.
then, like they were still learning, man. Like games are still pretty fucking new, right? Like relatively speaking, like what was before the NES? Fucking Atari. And what was before that? Nothing. So
Life began.
yeah,
Yes.
so it's like they're just trying to, I don't know,
So
I guess extend the length of the game. I don't know.
I think the way it actually works is you can only sell. It's like item type. It's not actually where you bought it.
Yeah.
So like if they sell that item, you can sell it.
like
Mhm.
used
yeah.
locksmiths or whatever.
Yeah.
Really?
So I think because I was trying to sell the Jack keys.
To later key guys.
Yeah, but he doesn't sell Jack keys, so he wouldn't
Mm.
buy them. But he would
I
buy
see what you're
Queen
saying.
and King. Yeah.
Okay, so if it has the item you have, that's definitely a coding error. That definitely is an oversight.
Yeah, I
Still,
wouldn't be
it's
surprised.
dumb.
I feel like this game generally was like not play tested.
Yeah.
Well,
I-
that wasn't
I-
really a
that's
thing
something-
back then. Like it was to a certain extent, but they didn't. Like nowadays, like you have to have people scour every inch of a game before you release it. Well, actually, that's not true. People release broken fucking games all the time. Red, whatever, fall, whatever, what's it called?
Oh damn.
Old, and as like someone who like has a foot in the development of games, did you have anything to say about the sort of like the glitches and issues and maybe unplay testedness of it?
Well, so yeah, I was gonna talk about that sort of. When I play NES games, I usually divide them into kind of two types. Zelda 2 is really polished, and you can kind of outskill everything. There's also the types of games where you just have to tank and spam hits, and I think I instantly recognized this was one of those games, just how
Mhm.
clunky it felt. I think that's why I just didn't get too annoyed, because as soon as I realized how the ranking system worked, like, oh, I have 5,000 gold when I respawn, I can fill out my inventory with potions. I can just go kamikaze and now like actually max out my inventory with potions. That like alleviated almost all the frustration. Of course, again, there's still times where you get knocked down 3 screens and you're like, I'm gonna go crazy. But other than that, like, I think because I was in that mindset, the bugs and stuff or lack of playtesting really didn't bother me.
What about the amulet? Do you guys hear about that?
So I learned about that post
Yes.
beating the game. And I was
Same.
like, why?
I
does-
noticed something was wrong instantly.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
I was just like, why do these things take more hits now?
I like
Yeah.
super. Like I got the pendant and I had read what it did in the instruction booklet and I was hyped. I was like, yes, more damage. And I went back and hit the enemy that took 3 hits and it took 4. And I went, what? So
Literally
I
a coding error.
I had to know, and I looked it up, and like you said, it is literally a coding error. You start with the benefit from the very beginning, and when you get it, you lose it.
Yep.
That's cool. I just learned about that 2 seconds ago.
Yeah,
I
I
realized something was like off, but I just kind of put it out of my mind because at that point, actually, I don't know if anybody else just decided to grind to max level at any point, but I definitely did.
I did. I
think
found
it
a
was-
really
I
nice
grinded for gold
spot.
here and there.
It's
And,
really easy to grind in this game.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
certain spots where you just fly.
I think that's a
Yeah.
really cool system, though, but it led to being hella cheesed.
I was just getting so
Yeah.
frustrated at the near the
The thing is,
second last session. I was in the
thing-
town of Victim.
sorry.
That's
Um,
perfectly named.
What I was gonna say is, with games like this, there's no such thing as cheesing it, bro. Like, you're just
Yeah.
leveling the fucking playing field, dude.
Mhm.
Like, the game is cheesing you constantly at every fucking screen, at every opportunity it gets, right? So, I mean, as long as you're not literally fucking cheating by, like, entering a game genie code or something. And I mean, if you want to do that too, it's fine, whatever. Do whatever you want, play your games however you want. But I'm saying, if you're trying to, like, complete the game with, like, some form of what you would consider legitimacy, there's nothing wrong with being cheesy about any of it, just because of the way the game is designed, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something that's really well designed and polished, like, you want to respect it more, right? Like, you feel like more admiration for it, not just the game itself, but for the developers, because they obviously put more effort into it, and they probably had, like, personal, like, passion towards the project. Like, it's not just about making a game to be paid. It's they're creating art, basically.
Like, I want
And-
this project to mean something to me and the people who play it.
Exactly. And to me, like, those types of games, I think deserve more respect. But that's just a personal thing. So, like, for a game like this, cheese the fuck out of it. Who gives a fuck.
Yeah. It's fair.
I have a question for all of you in regards to difficulty.
Mhm.
With the topic of Zelda 2, did you guys find this game more difficult to beat or easier?
Easier.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to
Way
come across as a Giga gamer. Okay, thank you, Super. I never found anything in this game particularly difficult. Like,
Yeah.
other than like some areas that I had to tank a lot of damage, I just chugged red potions, and it was just
Yeah.
like that solved any problem. It was just
There's
like,
there's also an area. Sorry to interrupt.
no, you're good.
I think it's in when you first get to, like, the castle part, like when you're in the last part of the game.
Mhm.
There's an area where there's a respawning red potion. All you gotta do is kill 2 easy to kill enemies. Like,
Oh, yeah.
they're not even, you just kill them instantly, and one of them drops a shit ton of gold too. That weird, like, long-legged spider mushroom thing.
Oh,
that
yeah.
just walks
The
back and
Gulag?
forth.
Like,
Yeah,
I
the
like
Gulag.
Yeah, the Google
More
legs.
like a gulag.
If you just, like, randomly jump sometimes. But yeah, that guy, like, he drops a shit ton of gold, and it's super easy to kill. Like, you just don't get hit by it ever. But yeah, there's, like, I don't know. Again, like, you had to either stumble upon it and find it, or know it's there to get that red potion. But that's like what I was saying earlier. Like, you didn't, when you're a kid with an NES, typically, you didn't own a whole lot of games, so you had like 3 or 4 games, and so you would play them a lot, right?
Mhm.
Like, a good example of that would be the original Metroid, right? Like,
Mhm.
nowadays you look at that game, you're like, what the fuck? Really? Fuck that. But back then it was like, oh, we're exploring. It's the unknown. It's like, it's okay if you get lost. Like, that's part of the fun, right? It's like an adventure, and you can devote more time to it because you only have 4 fucking games, right?
Yeah.
So, like, things like that. I know it's still, like, it doesn't make it more fun, like the shitty, like, design of the mechanic. I don't want to say shitty, outdated.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't
Ye
make it
olden.
more enjoyable, but, like, it's just something to think about, right? Like, where the industry was at that time when it comes to design.
Yeah. I want to say, in regards to difficulty, I think I probably died a lot more in Zelda 2, but I had a hell of a lot more fun playing Zelda 2, so it didn't bother me. Whereas this is just
Yeah.
like grating on my soul.
I think
It's
that's
miserable.
exactly why I wanted to pick this game in hindsight, because it's really interesting to note a game as difficult as Zelda 2 can be more rewarding and enjoyable versus a game easier but more frustrating.
Hmm.
It sounds kind of obvious when you say it out loud, but again, I thought this game was like so many more leagues easier than Zelda 2 that I was just sort of kind of passive the whole time playing,
Yeah.
That makes any sense.
Sorry. I think that makes sense. But on the other hand, like for me, I feel like all of Zelda 2 is easier except for the boss fights in this game.
Dude,
Like,
the
the
last
boss-
area of Zelda 2 is pretty. It's
I
kind
don't
of hard,
know.
dude.
Man. I mean, it's kind of hard, but like the bosses in this game are actually like poop garbage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the only real design to make them bosses is just that they do massive amounts of damage, which is just
Yeah.
like the
when you
first
have,
time I
like-
fought a dwarf and it hit me for half my health. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And they have
I
like
know.
crazy gigantic hitboxes.
It's
Yeah.
like longer than
Like
the
half the
sword.
screen.
Dude, those dwarves, like their attack animation is fucking hilarious. It's like
Yeah.
half a frame, dude. Like their sword teleports forward for like a half a fucking
Oh
frame.
yeah, like the little gold guys that just walk up and
Yeah.
touch you and hit you
Yeah.
like 5 times. I was like, oh, get away from me.
But, like they're holding a sword and it looks like it's like stationary as they're hitting you, but if you look closely, they're swinging it, but it's like super fucking quick.
You're like, did
It
he
looks
sneeze?
so
You
dumb,
just take
dude.
half health.
Yeah. And the enemies in this game they're very straightforward and simple. Like
Mhm.
unlike Zelda 2, where like you actually have to like fucking get into a fight with them.
Yeah.
Like you
It's
go
a-
high,
it's-
you go low. Like it's like crazy. In this game, they're just like moving back and forth. You know.
Their difficulty is just where they're placed.
It's
Yeah,
a huge.
that's
I thought it was kind of a huge variety too.
Yeah,
They
there
have a
is.
good variety,
yeah.
but, like I agree with Colin. Like the environment dictated how difficult the enemies were. Like if it was just like an open area, like where you could avoid them, like they'd be fucking completely harmless.
it's like I just found the enemy patterns completely brainless. It's the way they either track you or they just go like side to side, and that's just the most frustrating thing about this game. Like it's the way I would describe it is thoughtless. It's like when it goes back to like walking into a screen and then something immediately falls on you or something like that. It just feels really, I guess, just unpolished is the way
I
you
mean,
would describe it. It's
I th-
thoughtless.
I think back then that was common, but like Nintendo was just ahead of the curve, man. They
Yeah,
were just leagues ahead of everyone else when it came to polish and design.
That's
Like there
true.
was nothing like Zelda 2 at all back then. Like that was fucking revolutionary. Like
I was thinking of Metroid 1 a lot when I was playing it too, because like thinking of like the flying enemy patterns in those games
yeah,
and just the
that's
enemy
a-
patterns in general, like so much better in Metroid. Metroid's another level.
well, I think in this game, like they just design the way the enemies move, and then they design like the environments and like without trying to connect the two in any way as they design them. But I think in Metroid, the environments and the enemies were like in the same thought process when it came to designing them and how they affect the gameplay.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And they could have, I mean, to Super's earlier point about cost versus enjoyment factor and how long you get to play the game, some of that jank may have been intentional jank.
I think yeah, some of it was like the key, the doors relocking. I think that's intentional. I don't think that was an oversight.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't have the memory per door to remember, you know.
Yeah.
There's other games that remember unlocked doors in the NES, and this is a later NES game, isn't it?
Wasn't it 87? You guys said 89. I think
It's
89.
89. It's
Danny's
89 for
crazy.
US, but I think
Oh.
let me.
Oh, okay.
It is 87, November 16th, 87 for JP.
for some reason in my head I had it as like a 92 game, and I was
Oh,
like, Jesus
shit.
Christ, what the? It's fucked up. But no,
For
it's at
92,
least-
this would have been pretty bad.
yeah, like post Link to the Past.
Yeah.
No, no.
Did
Speaking
you know
of things,
that Bubsy 3D came out after Mario 64?
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, right?
but Chris, you mentioned something that was probably the second maddest I'd ever been in this game. It wasn't as like on the tier of that key debacle, but you saying walk on the screen and something falls on you. It was in the tree-ish area. I think you're at the base of the tree.
I know what you're talking about.
And you
I know.
first fight that snake enemy, like that big enemy, and I, instead of going back and just cheesing it up on the ledge, fell with it and tussled with it and lived with a magic pixel of health and was like, thank God I killed it. And I walked into the next screen and there was a dude on the other end and had his hand on a crank. I was like, wait, I should go heal before I do
Oh,
something.
God.
And he dropped the rock on my head immediately because I waited. Had I walked forward, I'd have been fine. But because of my apprehension, it immediately dropped on my head. It killed me, and I lost all that progress. And I was like,
Yeah, that happened. Yep.
That boss was
Awful.
stupid. I didn't like that boss either. Like, also, like, whenever
The
you go up,
Rock Man.
yeah, whenever you try to attack him too, you don't attack him, you attack his machine, and that was just.
I didn't even
never
know you
attacked
could
him.
attack him.
Didn't
I
even
knew you
bother.
could,
I
I
tried
just-
multiple times, but I couldn't get it. And it was,
Yeah, you
I
have to
did it-
attack his machine.
I tried it once and I got fucked up doing it, so I just never did it again. Anytime I saw one of those guys, I was just like, getting out
You
of
can
there.
walk up behind him, and the one area where you have to get like the elixir to give to that guy, you know, in that
Mhm.
one dungeon. Because I think he's like guarding one or something. Or it's something
Yeah.
like that, right?
he is, yeah.
And so you come in from behind, and you should just be able to just kill him and move on. But you go in there, you try to attack his body, you miss because it doesn't work,
Mhm.
and then a rock just falls on you and you just die.
From behind
Uh,
him.
Yeah, from behind
That's how
him.
that works.
And I was like, a little peeved about that.
Just a little.
See, I don't know. It's weird. Like for me, my first instinct was hit him in the face. Like
Yeah,
for the
hit
bigger
him.
enemies like that, like I don't know, like it's just like the little enemies. It's like whatever, just kill them. But the big ones, I'm like, go for the head. It's just like I
For
just
the most part, that
automatically
holds
attack
true.
him in the face. Yeah.
But
I-
yeah,
I'm-
the
But,
Apex machine
but
is-
I mean, it is a valid point. It's like, yeah, it's you hit it in the torso, and it's like, nope, I'm invincible there. Like, okay, good
you have
shit.
to
Dude.
attack my rock machine to kill me. Like,
Colin, were you gonna say something? I was about to start ranting about the ladders again.
No, I mean, so this is it's an example of a few different things we've talked about. It's like lack of polish, but also I'm kind of thinking about it a different way now, and it's maybe like a credit to the developers. Anyway, so the first Matic you get in that first little tower, Danny knows this story because
Mhm.
I had to share it because it was eating me up inside.
Let the record hold.
S- Let that be
That's a demerit.
or whatever, yeah. So you get that first Matic, right? You come out of the tower, you walk to the right, you use it. Life
Mhm.
goes on, you proceed through the story, whatever. I used that Matic, and I was like, wait a sec, I need to go back to that other town. So I went back to the town, got whatever I needed to get there. I don't remember what it was. Went back to that wall thinking everything's hunky-dory, that shit was still going to be gone. Guess which wall was back up there? You guessed it, the one I just broke with the Matic. Some motherfucker came back and rebuilt that
They've
wall.
ruined my rock collection.
Yeah. Anyway, so now the wall's back and I don't have a Matic. So I'm like, okay, it's not sold in the shop, and I can't find one. And as you have said, the game's linear, so I'm like, I didn't just miss it. Like it's not like I just walked past it or whatever. So I did some googling, and there is in that tower, in one of the rooms, there's like 6 different rooms. It might even be this tower Danny's in right now. I don't even know, or the one before it. But if you kill the enemies in that room 3 times, like you kill them, leave, come back, kill them, leave, come back and kill them, on the 3rd time or whatever, it'll spawn a Matic. And like the fact that that's there is cool, but the fact that I have to go digging in GameFAQs threads from 20 years ago to find it is really fucking annoying.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite way to find game info. Honestly, like for retro games, I love finding like 2001 game facts.
Yeah, it just that was like one of my first major reactions to this game was like, man, I got this cool axe. I broke this wall. I killed the dwarf. I'm progressing. This is cool. Oh wait, never mind. I'm fucking stuck. No axe. Damn. You know.
Yeah, there's actually I noticed that a couple times when in the rooms where an item should typically spawn, sometimes it just wasn't there. I don't know what that's about. There's a couple times there's like an hourglass and there was an ointment in one of the last areas.
Yeah, you can use the ointment to skip a lot of the run up to the last boss,
Yeah,
or not the last boss, the boss where you get the Dragon Slayer.
yeah.
It's really
It's really
funny to me.
helpful because I don't know about you guys. Sorry, did you guys like experience extreme lag whenever there were like those weird beehive ghost things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sucked, and thank God for the ointment that you can use to skip that.
If you
whole
ever
section.
throw a death out and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't. The frames are terrible.
But what were you gonna say, Super?
I was just gonna say it's really funny that they chose to name that item ointment. Like it's a thing that makes you invincible
I
for a period of time. And it's like, oh yeah, that's fucking ointment. Oh, all right, dude, ointment. Yeah.
Gotta heal my
They should've
rash.
called it-
And
They
then the
should call it
glove.
balm.
It's funny
I-
because one of my first observations also about the game was that I felt like the translation was pretty solid. Like talking to the guru and the people in town, I was like,
Yeah.
actually coherent sentences. If you compare that to like Final Fantasy 1, they're like, get orb, you know?
Or Zelda 2
Yeah.
or Castle. I mean, wait, nothing.
I am
nothing.
error.
Yeah, so like in this, at least you get that good writing. But then to your point, like ointment, like what the fuck is ointment?
Golds.
At least you can understand what they're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Like the guy who sells dried meat, he's like, "Have dried meat for health, big," and you're like, "Oh, okay, thanks."
Got it. And then it gives you magic too, and you're like, tight.
Yeah, the dried meat was way. The hospital's a ripoff.
Yeah,
At the start,
500
it's better.
bucks. Well,
I use
Start
the
is better.
hospital.
And the
Yeah.
funniest thing is, like, he's like, "That'll be $500." And you press A to advance the text, and it's like, "Oh, okay." Just give it
yeah.
away.
It's like, but I needed to buy a potion.
Like,
Yeah,
you
like
first
throughout the
say
game, the
yes or
healthcare
no.
system crashes down for some reason.
That's
It's
dude. It's a
privatized.
fucking message, dude. This game's way ahead of its time.
So ahead of its time.
It's a message.
Yeah, you gotta go the meat man instead.
Yeah,
I really didn't like the slow scrolling text. That's a very minor complaint in the grand
Yeah,
scheme of
well,
things
it was
in a
funny 'cause
game
it
with
was
a lot of
like-
complaints.
Of two worlds, because you could at any time drop out of text, but you couldn't advance it. So if you wanted to buy a lot of shit from shops, it was like a fucking 10-minute ordeal. But if you wanted to stop
think-
talking to somebody, you hit B and you were out.
I think back in the day, that wasn't like the thing that was considered good design, like slow text, because like the thought process is you want players to know, right? They have to know this information. Without this information, they're fucked. That's like it's true for
Yeah,
this
if-
game
if
and
you're
true for
wing
like Zelda
boots.
2. Yeah, like they tell you very specific things like that you need to know to progress. So I think I don't know. I could be wrong, but to me, I think it would make sense that was like a thing that you wanted to do back in the day. Have slow
Mhm.
text.
I was a little bit disappointed with, I don't know about you guys, but I was a little disappointed about how little there was to gain in the form of like secrets. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I feel like
was-
old games like this, it's really cool, and it's like, oh, you know, like you go somewhere weird, you find something like really good. You know?
I felt the same. Did you guys find the shop in the Misty
Yeah.
area?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can. Yeah.
I don't think I did.
Yeah. It's well, it would have. You would have hated it. It required everything. It required a lot of ladder stuff.
But-
The ladders covering the entire ceiling.
Oh
You
yeah.
get, was it Magic Shield and Death early for cheap?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep. That's actually, I think, in one of that's like before the second town, I think.
Yeah, that's really, really early on that shop.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Uh,
one's not.
Oh
good.
no,
secret-
not that one. The secret one.
The secret
in the
one
Misty
has
area.
the secret one. I think has death in it,
It does.
but I think it
has
also has death and it has potions
Mhm.
and it has the hourglass in it.
So I got magic shield and death by backtracking. Like when I did all that grinding at Victim, I just grinded for an hour
Mhm.
and backtracked to get that magic and shield. And being max level and having that stuff, I think helped just because knowing you can respawn with 15,000
Hey, you
gold.
didn't pull a clone and go into the King of Dwarves without a Magic Shield. That's a bad
Oh,
look,
good.
dude.
As we've
Uh.
talked more about the difficulty of this game, I think that like actually, had that not happened to me, I would have been on the side of you guys saying like, oh, on the, aside from jank enemy placement or whatever, it really wasn't that hard. It was just like maybe some annoyance and like unfair or whatever. But
No, yeah, the hourglass and the
Yeah.
boots basically trivialized it.
I actually
I didn't buy the magic and I didn't buy the shield, and that's on me. So,
I didn't use the hourglass at all. I only had to do a few attempts on the guy with the sword at the end, like who drops the sword, and then the final boss I one shot. I guess I might have got
Yeah, that
lucky
was
there.
a pushover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Boss
You
is
can just equip
super
boots
easy.
and just kill him.
Yeah.
fly through the air.
Yeah, you can just fly through the air and just hit him a million times and you can't do anything.
Yeah, the final
Yeah.
boss is a joke. in that
Yeah, so
case.
the major difficulty for me in this game was, I don't know if I'd call it difficulty so much as just like supreme annoyance. It was in this, like the middle section of the game, like the second town, the one that Danny is on right now on the stream. Starting here and all through the Mysteria was just like the core of the misery for me, and then just like
Thank
core
God for this
gameplay
room.
issues. Yeah, we're just
3 breads.
The Misty area was both my favorite and least favorite area. I thought it was such a cool area. Like it had the nice secret I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Really non-linear exploration. The save isn't in the town; it's in that weird ruins. But what I hated about it was that I went out of my way to explore so many of the optional dungeons, and there would be like the worst rewards sometimes.
Yeah,
in
there
some of
was.
them.
It was not rewarding at all.
Like there's the Tower of Suffer, which
Absolutely.
you go in there, I believe, and there is just nothing. You
Yep.
use I think it's a king key, might be a queen. I'm pretty sure it's a king key, which you need for that area. No, it's the key that you need for that area.
Yeah.
And you go into that tower, and I believe there's a red potion at the end.
And there's this music playing, guys, that literally just hurt you before you can hit
Oh,
them.
those are the worst
And I'm
enemies
like,
I've ever seen in the game.
Oh yeah, those guys like. I'm glad there's only like 3 of them in the whole fucking
Yeah,
game.
for real.
So
Oh,
one of
blue guys. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the drum guys.
yeah, they have like a loot, and they just go side to side, and you just get hurt while
I
they
thought it was a little
exist.
Drum.
Or it might be
Yeah.
a drum.
One
But
thing though about like, oh
It's a
sorry,
bong.
well, I was just gonna say, one of those tripped me up so bad. I thought I needed something for the area because I was taking constant damage. So I literally left there. But it ended
That's
up being a
funny.
useless area anyway. But I came back to it and I was like, wait, I think it's that guy. And then
Yeah.
they're real B words. I think the one cool thing about the mist area that kind of supports you guys talking about how it's kind of a game where you just face tank things is there's a lot of like HP, like restoring
Yes,
stuff.
there is.
Mhm.
Like you
There's a
can
lot.
basically every 2 or 3 screens fully restore your HP, which made
Yeah,
the
you
game
can-
way easier. Way
You can like get an elixir. There's certain parts of the game that you can go back to, and there's an elixir just sitting there. And you
Oh,
just
yeah.
take
Yeah.
it.
No,
And
totally.
then-
So I appreciated that actually quite a bit because, like, there's that part where I couldn't get up the ladder to fight that guy, but at the very least, at the bottom of that pit, there was a weird little spiky dude I could farm for infinite tries to do.
Mhm.
The flying squids. Remember those guys?
The squids,
Mhm.
the little worms on the ground, and the
flying
freaking
squids are cool. I like the flying squids. That's one thing I know this is kind of a little. I mean, it's I guess off topic. I don't know. But like back in this era, like you just make anything into an enemy. It's a flying eyeball with a horn coming out of it. And it also has a laser spatula. It's like, okay, sure, bring it on. Nowadays,
Damn.
it's like the enemy soldiers.
What a mystical kingdom. It has eyeballs
Yeah.
that have laser specialists.
And in this screen, Danny's
And you unlock
jumping frogmen.
Exactly.
Entries that are like 20 pages long describing this enemy.
That'd be fucking sick, dude.
Danny's fighting guys wearing hoodies right now.
These guys made me so mauled.
You know what I saw those guys as? They're like eyeballs. They're like made of eyeball, and like the black part is the pupil, like where their face is supposed to be.
Gross, yeah. I can
Oh,
see
that's
They're-
terrifying.
They're
Feel
made
kinda
of
bad for the
eyeballs.
dwarves. Like the dwarves are like all like these ugly, different like little dudes, and all the elves are like just humans. It's like, jeez.
Well, yeah, dude,
It's
they got
Disney,
corrupted
bro.
because they're greedy.
Are they?
No.
Are they? But were they? I guess it doesn't really. Does it say that they weren't weird, crusty table?
Yeah,
Thing
it says
for it?
in the lore that they got ugly from touching.
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like
okay.
all
that's
the
good.
dragons that you fought used to be dwarves. They were changed by the meteor.
I feel like
made
I
them
saw
go
like
crazy. It
2
wasn't
lines
their
about
fault.
that meteor.
It wasn't their fault.
There,
The
there's actually
meteor
quite
made them
quite a
crazy.
bit about the meteor in
Mhm.
like the last. If there's like 6 towns, it's like 3, 4, and 5, something like that.
And then the guru that you find in the castle near the end, he
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
tells you this big old fucking speech about the lore.
I thought that was cool.
So
That
did
was
I.
cool. I was like,
liked it.
this is sick. I was like, this is like, I think it was a good culmination of the story it tried to tell.
I liked
It,
it. I
it
mean,
also shows that like the dwarves were like not just like assholes, because he was like,
I feel like this game was ambitious and maybe even a little ahead of its time. It's just, I think the developers just didn't have the. I know this might sound harsh, but they just didn't have the ability to realize their vision.
Yeah.
And then, like on the opposite end of the spectrum, or maybe not opposite end, but like you have Nintendo on the other hand, who they fucking definitely had the ability.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's why
it's
Zelda
definitely.
2 is so much different.
I admire the ambition for sure, but it's a lot of ideas just it didn't work out, and it ultimately is just a very frustrating game. I think.
Yeah, yeah.
The
okay,
game
I-
definitely feels very theory crafted, especially with how much of the game is in the manual itself that they have to explain for you to get started.
Well, that's pretty common for the NES era.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely. But just like when we're talking about like, okay, they put enemies in houses, but you can't equip a weapon. Like, were they gonna do something else with that system? And they just left it in. Like,
Yeah,
there's just a lot.
Every one of
the
those
game
was
reeks of with
useless.
that. Yeah.
It's like there's literally no point to any of
feel
them
like
despite being 10.
I feel like the enemies in the houses are just like world building almost, because it's like, oh, this used to be a house with someone living in it. Now there's a monster.
Yeah, there was some
Oh,
of that
no.
in the second or the last area, second to last area, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Like that
yeah.
abandoned town.
Yeah, I thought that was. I mean, I saw what they're trying to do, but I understand. Like, I get it. Like, yeah, you should have been able to stab him with your sword instead of having to use magic. And maybe there should be a reward. You know.
I just walked in there, saw an angry pink man, and was like, I
Nope. Yeah, get out.
Leave.
now. I hope you enjoy it.
Let me try the next house over. Oh, they're angry too. I'm gonna get out.
Yeah, and see, it would have been cool if, I don't know, you got some sort of like thing for like killing them all. You know what I mean? But just something. I don't know, maybe some little amulet or something, make your attack go down even lower.
Yes, more of that.
So there's a little detail. If you look on Danny's screen right now, the key in the top right, I thought it was really cool that the letter of the key formed the sprite of the key.
Yeah, that was
Mhm.
awesome.
I thought that was super lit ass, but I'm
When I-
glad you appreciated
When I
it.
first saw that, I was like, fuck yeah, that's cool.
And then you realized how the keys worked, and you began to
Then you're like, fuck everything.
fuck
made-
these things.
But at least they're neat.
They are cool looking, but
I
they're
feel-
stupid.
A lot of the art in the game is actually very nice. I love the
Yeah, I was
background.
gonna say that's a good segue, like the small details, to talk about how we feel about like the overall like design of like the like we've talked about the world building, but what about like the world and art itself along with the music?
I enjoyed the music. Was completely forgettable in my opinion.
Okay, but what about the
But-
boss fight music that looped every 5 seconds?
Dude, I honestly can't even remember. I
I don't
can't
remember
song
either.
up in my head right now. I can't think of one and be like, oh,
And
yeah,
the
that's
the
Faxanadu.
shop music haunts me.
Oh,
Yes, yeah.
You know what I remember is do 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 do
Yeah.
do do. That's it. That's the only one I remember.
Would you like to buy a 7th red potion?
Yes, yes, I would.
The title theme is
Yeah,
pretty,
yeah.
pretty awesome.
Chris, you played this
Yeah,
on a
it's good.
CRT, right?
Of course.
Did you like the way it looked? Because I looked up footage of it not being crispy pixels, and I thought it looked way better
Yeah,
with
I
the
think it
little blur.
looks fantastic. Just like the color palette and stuff is really interesting. I think the mist effect in the mist area was really interesting. I'd never seen anything like that in an NES
My
game.
eyes, but it was cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it looks really nice.
I enjoyed the differences between the areas as you progressed. Because
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I have like that's one thing that in video games that would like wow me as a kid. Like you get used to one area and then you get to a new area that looks so different. You're like, oh, like you look at
Yeah.
your cousin or your brother or your friend, and you both look at each other with the same face, like, oh shit, you look at that, dude.
Dude, have you been to the purple area before?
Yeah, exactly.
I hate the
But to
purple
me,
area.
like, It
If you
kind
look
of
at the
brought back those types of like feelings to me when I found the new areas. I was like, oh shit, dude, look at this shit. Something like that, you know.
Yeah, definitely. The design was really cohesive in like as you because you were climbing a tree, like you were going through towns and going to the tree, and like you knew when you got to that like final area, like when you were at the like branches of the tree, you're like, oh shit, I'm up there. Like
Yeah,
this
you
is
see the sky in the
right.
background.
yeah. So it was like every area had nice detail. Like it felt like Super said, like it felt like a new area. Like you were progressing, and like as far as like the art went, like I really liked it, and like that your dude, like there were different sprites for the weapons, like so it was mechanical and like visual. And especially when you had the Dragon Slayer battle armor and battle shield, like you're just this fully fucking suited up guy. And you're like, yeah, I'm ready to
Dude, you're
fucking
Ultraman.
game. Yeah, like it was really cool, but like Super said, the music was yeah. I did like the dungeon theme. Like when you get to the final dungeon, it's a more sinister sounding
Yeah,
It's like
version
a
of it.
remix.
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
And then the same thing kind of happens with the ending credits theme. It's the intro music, but like a little bit more triumphant.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love it when games do that.
Mhm.
Motifs or whatever.
Did anybody
like
else
the-
appreciate like when you beat the game, it's this you're just reversing the intro wall.
Yeah, he just
Everything's,
fucks off.
like- but everything's like alive. Like did you go back and like compare the colors and
That
Mhm.
screen is so
and the-
good,
and
actually.
the sprites between like the trees are dead when you're walking in and there's no water and everything's all fucking brown and it's like green and lush and vibrant when you are leaving. And I thought that was really neat.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I like that
I-
too.
Watched
Wow.
it a couple times, so I was like, this is cool.
The ending's so abrupt. in this game. in
Yeah.
general, but that
You
was a
beat the
cool
guy. The
closing
guy's like,
scene.
"You did
The
it,"
song
and then he
immediately
walks
starts.
away. Yeah.
He was
What?
That's
Yeah,
that's an
Faxanadu.
NES thing for sure,
Yeah.
dude. That's you got. When I beat Karnov, it literally says congratulations for 2 seconds, then goes to the title screen. That's the ending.
Good old
Yeah,
car.
not every game could be Mega Man.
Yeah, with him walking through the seasons with deep music playing, and yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
when's Mega Man?
Dude,
It
we
could
should
be.
have a Mega Man game.
Could
I
be.
started the other day. As far as the art goes, though, if you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there were a lot of unique tiles
Oh,
per screen.
absolutely.
Definitely.
That really caught
Definitely.
my attention, and it's funny. Like we look back at that 2010s era of games and being like, "Oh, it's all brown and Call of Duty and it looks dumb," but I liked how like gritty and dull this game felt and looked. Like it had a real weight to it that was added. I feel.
Yeah, if you look at
Did
the
you, like-
dungeon that
God, sorry.
in this dungeon that Danny's in right now, like starting at the bottom, like I really like the color palette, just in general, like you said, like the browns and stuff.
Mhm.
There was one, I made a note of it at some point. There was like a green background. It was near the start, like green sky in. I can't read my own writing, but it was like a green sky background and stuff. It's yeah, I agree. It's just pleasant colors.
Yeah, because when there are moments where there's striking colors, like it really pops after an environment like that's on screen right now.
Yeah, I think the game definitely did have a. It created a like an atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it told a decent story and had a good world. Like as far as like world and like theme and story for an NES game, I'd say it's pretty outstanding in that department.
Yeah, gotta agree.
I completely
So-
agree. No, the story's really good. Like
So
compared to Zelda 2, and again, it's literally just like, okay, go, like most games. You know.
yeah, I mean, this game I'd played this a long time ago, but like I literally played it for like 3 minutes, and I was like, "Fuck this game, this sucks." Where you start out and like you just have a fist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you walk to that one gate where there's the first monster, and you try punching him, and you just fucking die. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, this game sucks," and I turned it off and never played it
That was
again.
such a weird design choice too. Like apparently they wanted to teach the player to jump over that enemy, but
I mean, it
most
also
people are
makes you
just gonna punch
feel
it.
it makes you feel like good when you start killing them, you know, because in
Yeah,
the beginning
I
it's like
agree
this
with
thing
that.
is a fucking menace. Like I have to run from it. Like there's nothing I can do. But then you start going through the game, and you're like, oh, look, these guys aren't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like as much as like we can talk about, like I feel like Shinobi, like being a later game, like had a lot more we could talk about in terms of like the spectacle of the design, whereas this game it's like with what they had, they did a good job.
Yeah. There's not
but-
as much to talk about.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of similar, but it was appreciable. I was a fan of that, and I guess we can probably get to our final thoughts, like our overall thoughts of the game and our playthroughs. Anybody
then
like to
the-
kick us
The
off?
score.
Yeah,
give
the
it a
score.
Chris
You
is
don't
gonna
have to.
morally object to this.
You
Don't
to.
have negative thoughts.
Before
Yeah.
we do that, there's
Remember
one
your
last-
mantra.
one last little thing I wanted to call out as just like a neat little thing. So we were talking about all the weapons and armor have different sprites. I thought
Mhm.
the giant blade when I got it was amazing because I did not expect it to look like a fork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a tri-pronged thing.
The Stabber 9000.
Is this a is this
Ceremonial
a
killamajig.
Yeah.
I agree. It was cool.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go first.
Mhm.
Overall, when I step away and look back on this experience, I'm glad I played it. I'm not gonna ever play it again, ever. I might watch someone play it just to be like, ha ha. But
You got
other
fucked
than
up by
that,
the same
like-
shit, idiot.
Yeah, I'm glad I experienced it because I'd heard a lot about it throughout the years, and You know, I know that it's a notable game. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of people really love it. Like, it's considered a classic. It is. And yeah, I like it as a game with that status. I think it's important if you care about the history of, you know, this medium. Then I think it's an important game to at least, if you don't want to play it, at least, like, you know, look into it. Maybe watch a little gameplay footage. But I'm glad I played it, and if I were to give it a score out of 10, I'd probably give it 6.
Can I go?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I agree. I am glad I played it. I feel that way about pretty much every game that I play. Even if I play every game that I start and beat it, even if I hate it. And I don't regret the time that I spend with them because I like learning about games, especially important ones that are considered classics, like you said. I was actually kind of surprised when I looked up reviews and seeing how fondly people think of this game. Because, yeah, I did not enjoy it very much at all. But it does have some good ideas. I can appreciate that. It was just, I think it didn't come together. And I agree with you in that I never want to play it again. I'm glad I played it. I guess, yeah, that's what I think. I didn't like it. Glad I played it. I think
So since you're not going to give it a score, a numerical score, describe it with a couple words.
I give this game 2 ointments out of 45,000 experience points.
Oh, that makes
That's a really
sense.
thoughtful score, to be
Yeah,
honest.
actually, and I think that sums it up pretty well, actually.
2 ointments, yes.
Since
Next.
we're kind of alternating people who liked it, didn't like it. Like, I know Chris, not to say you were hating on it, but
Oh, I was hating.
you were
I like
hating.
this game.
Okay, all right, but yeah, okay. 1 ointment out of 45,000. We'll give him a demerit and retract the score. I just sitting down with this game. It took me 2 real sit downs because I played it in a 2-hour chunk, a 2.5-hour chunk, and then a 15-minute chunkette, if you will. And it just flowed. Like, maybe I just hit the like ideal, well, other than that 40 minutes I wasted, like what they intended, but I never got hung up on anything. Like, everything that I was doing just felt kind of natural, like the progression, getting better weapons, like finding this key. Like, there's that one part where you need to find the 3 fountains, and each fountain, one you have to fight a boss to turn on, the other you need an elixir to turn on, and then the other one you have to have the wing boots and fly up on the screen, which I thought was really cool. And then, like, there was always kind of something different going on, so playing it in those like longer chunks really helped me appreciate that. And while the gameplay was obnoxious at times, like, there's no other way around it. Like, walking into a screen, getting knocked back by an enemy, and then like losing health, like struggling through an area because of shit like that was really annoying. It was really unfun. But then again, a lot of stuff like that, like how Super was saying, like, they might have designed it. Like, they wanted you to struggle through that area so you didn't just breeze through it and just beat the game in 2 hours. So, like, going in with the mindset of, like, okay, this is gonna be, what is it, that quote, literally, it's a term, NES hard. Like, going in thinking, like, okay, I'm gonna have to put up with some of that bullshit, and then running into said bullshit, like, I didn't let it really drag the experience down for me. So it, like, overall, like, kind of, I guess, having a certain mindset as I played it in those chunks, it was enjoyable. Like, I never got hung up. Like, there's games I play nowadays where I'm doing parts and I just don't want to do it. Like, I'm over this fucking area. Like, I hate fighting this enemy type. Like, there's something that's just like, I hate doing this. This game never really.
Good.
No, those missions are just kind of boring. All right.
I'm right
but
here.
he's right there. This game never kind of fell into that trap. Like, it was smooth pretty much start to finish, other than that one bugaboo with the keys, which I guess you can kind of say was my fault, but fuck the keys. But overall,
that was not your fault.
I'm right there with Super in that I don't think this is a bad game. I enjoyed my time with it. I'm glad I played it. Definitely not going to be like, oh man, I should do a Faxanadu playthrough. But like at the same time, it's just like, okay, all right. So I would say definitely like a solid 6. Like it was time well spent. I enjoyed my playthrough, and I think I'm glad that Holden slapped it on the wheel.
Well put.
So if you gave it a 6, what is it? Just the gameplay that takes it from a 10 to a 6?
The gameplay literally takes it down like a 2.
2, yeah.
And then I think I would have liked the magic to be a little like, this thing shoots a different sprite forward. Like Tilt was the coolest one because it shot a thing forward, but then it burst. Like that was cool. Like,
Yeah.
but
It pisses me off because after I got every magic and it was all the same shit, I didn't buy Tilt because I was like,
it's just gonna be the same
Also
shit.
didn't, That's funny.
But
I bought
actually,
everything.
what's funny, what I just did there, like if you were watching the gameplay on the screen, like I was shooting magic while using the wing boots, and it's like Darth was saying, like there's a little bit of nuance to some of the gameplay, like because that takes like, well, it's not, there's fucking 2 buttons, but like holding jump, hitting up and attack, and like using the D-pad to move back and forth, like that's pretty cool. Like, but
I agree 100%.
but
100%.
overall, like the Zelda 2 comparisons have been made. Like,
wait,
is
you
the
ran
gameplay?
you ran out of wing boots there? That's so friggin' sad.
So
That happened
do
to
you,
me too.
do you want to know
Same.
something about the wing boots that I found out because of this moment right here? I talked to Colin about this.
You have
title
less
thing.
flight.
You have less flight the higher level you are,
Yep.
It was a weird decision.
which is
It's so big.
yeah. So I happen to use my whole story about my wing boots that I traveled. Literally took me 40 minutes to get. I was the max rank and I used them, and I think I flew for like 2 seconds and fell. And I was like, what the fuck? I spent 40 minutes to do that?
So I guess you could actually like soft lock yourself essentially because you can't progress if you get too
that's
high level.
crazy.
Oh,
to
that's
think about.
true.
But you'd have to be insane to grind that much.
I think it caps at 20 seconds or bottoms out at 20 seconds. It starts at 40, goes to 30 somewhere in the mid levels, and the most you'll get at high levels is 20.
I guess you could technically.
You can always
buy
have multiple.
boots,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's weird.
But
This whole game's weird.
And shit.
yeah,
Why does the guy blink so much? What's wrong with him?
he's on drugs. He's drinking
They
too many
all-
red
all
potions.
Blink like crazy.
They'll blink, but only when they're talking. So they're
It
like
looks
weird
like-
robots.
He looks like the wrestler Arn Anderson. Look him up.
2800 gold. Ugh. Sucks.
I just hear this shop music when I look at that screen.
Do.
Are you done with
That
what
should be
you're
the theme for this.
Yes, yes.
For seriously casual.
I think, like, for me, I don't really love playing these, like super old games. Like, I really like discussing them and, like, thinking about them, but I don't so much like playing them because they just feel annoying to play. And it's just not fun for me.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes,
All right,
but, like, so, no, but
you're
sometimes-
out.
In the book club.
Yeah.
No
You know what?
That's the fourth
good
demerit,
part,
dude.
No. There's tons that are like when I play like like when I played like the first Castlevania, even though like that was completely different for me. That felt like completely different.
That game's like a fucking 8 though, dude. That game's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I would actually enjoy playing it, right? And that's why I would actually like play it more than once, unlike this game, which I would not, because I did not enjoy it a ton. But I thought there were some cool things about it that I think definitely like served to pioneer like kind of my favorite genres now. I was a little disappointed with like the way that the XP actually worked. It didn't really feel so much like a RPG at the end of the day.
Yep.
Agreed.
Which was disappointing for me, and so like for that reason I felt like it lost sort of like even more luster past all the other stuff we've already talked about. So for me, I feel like I'd put it probably at like a 3 out of 10.
That's fine.
But,
I get it. I
but-
totally get it. I get it.
but it would be straight up like a 1 out of 10 if it were not for the fact that there was like cool things about it, you know, like with like the
What?
story.
1 out of 10. Okay, we're not talking about God of War Ragnarok here.
Dude, no way, Danny. If you think this game is better
I
than that
would
game,
rather
that's-
spend 2 playthroughs worth of time than ever go back to God of War Ragnarok.
dude.
That's
Well,
crazy.
I completely. I think. I don't know. I was just was like janky. You know, I was just like
Yeah.
frustrated. I was just frustrated most of the time I was playing it. You know what I mean? I was just frustrated.
It's
I'm right there with you.
frustrating playing
I'm-
Faxanadu.
if I may say something, like there's literally no other way to say this. There's no way to say this without sounding like an asshole. So I'm just gonna say it. The reason that you think that this game is a 1 out of 10 is because of when you were born. Like,
It's 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10.
you
Well,
said
well,
one
that's totally
not
fair.
for what. I mean, the thing is, like, when you grow up playing this kind of stuff, like, it's different. Like, everything was different back then. Like, what a video game was different back then. Like when you grow up playing things with tons of quality of life things, you know, that have been refined over the years, and then you go back to something like this, like it totally makes sense. Why you'd be like, "What the fuck? This is dog shit. Why would anyone ever play this?" Right? But when you grow up with it, it's different because back then it was just a completely different thing, right? If that makes sense.
No, and like I totally like understand why like you guys have more respect for it. And hey, this is the young men's opinion.
Yeah, that's why
on
we
the
that's
chair.
why you got you on
Absolutely.
the board
No,
of directors.
friggin', I think that for most people my age who like they're like retro games for like Mega Man 2, you know, and like stuff like that. This game, yeah, it's just like
What was your first console, Darth? That like I'm not
Uh,
talking about a retro console. I'm talking about like a current console.
I think my first one was the Game Boy Advance. No, just the OG Game Boy Color.
And how old
That's-
were you when you got that?
I think I must have been like 5 years old, maybe 4. I think I got a GameCube when I was 6.
So
Yeah.
GameCube and Game Boy Color.
First
and
games
Game
I
Boy
played were like
Advance.
Mega Man 2 and like Pokemon Red.
Mega Man 2 came out like
Tetris.
around the same time as this. It's not. I don't think I agree with the notion that age has a ton to do with it. Because like I can go back and play old Atari games, have a good time. They won't.
Well-
I guess they won't necessarily. You need to have some sort of context, right? But I don't think a game like this being like frustrating has much to do with it. Like not having that context.
I feel like because like if you're sort of like, I guess it sort of depends how you're like judging the game out of 10. If you're judging it like just like video games in general or like video games on the NES, like in general, obviously nowadays it just doesn't measure up. But and that's so I think it actually does matter. Like I think Super's right. I think it does matter.
Well, there's merits to approaching it from both perspectives, right? In and out of its historical context.
Right.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you have to look at it, you know, in a vacuum without thinking, "Oh, it was made this time, so blah blah blah." Like you have to look at it that way.
But there were a lot of stuff about it, even though it was old, and I played old crappy games before. Like that surprised me, and I was like, "This is cool. This is awesome." It's like, at least there's something noteworthy to say about it. Like,
Thing
you
is,
know what I mean?
if I may add, like back then, like it was still video games are still new, right? So like just like nowadays, there's a big range of skill and ability when it comes to designers and developers. And I think these people who made this game, well, I'm not trying to insult them or knock them in any way. They just didn't have the know-how and the knowledge and the ability that other developers like Capcom and Nintendo and Konami had at the time. And I mean, it was still like a new frontier, you know, like people were still learning. Like there's people who pull ahead, the cream rises to the top, right? I mean, it's the same thing nowadays. It's just that the bar for not as good has been raised, you know. Like back then, it was like very low, obviously, back then, when you do something like lock yourself out of a key door because it relocked. Shit like that doesn't happen anymore in games because the bar was raised, if that makes any sense. So I think like the time that it was created, like, definitely adds it explains the jank
For sure. I agree with that. Still didn't like it.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. That's totally fair.
All right, and I feel like my hot take about God of War Ragnarok versus this game, like I mean it more in is when I looked at this game objectively, the things that it did wrong, like the things that made it like I don't want to play this game, were pretty much few and far between. God of War Ragnarok, every fucking step I took in that game was something I did not want to deal with. Like, those motherfuckers were solving puzzles for me. They were talking too much. The combat was boring. Like, the combat in a game about combat should not be boring. The combat in this game was boring, but it's not really what the game's about. Like,
It also has 4 buttons.
exactly. So
the thing is,
that's the kind of
God
where
of
I
I
see what you're
say,
saying there. Yeah,
yeah.
I think I understand where you're coming from.
but God of War, like, yeah, like the main part of the game is fighting, but it's not really about the combat. It's about the cinematic experience. That is the thing that takes center stage in God of War Ragnarok. That is the main focus.
Did you
is
play on
the
the hardest
story
difficulty, Danny?
and the
Second hardest.
cinematic aspect. That's what people want nowadays in games. They want slightly interactive films. That's all they want.
give me Faxanadu
Anyways,
too.
that's a tangent. I'm sorry. I
Hey,
had
yeah.
to just say it.
We're going off the rails.
Love it.
Chris Holden. Or not Chris Holden, Colin Holden. C names fucking me up.
The crisp.
Yeah, Coffee Chris, please.
Would you
I
like to
can-
go first, Colin?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna maybe go out in left field here and just say that my out of 10 is probably a 7, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Generous.
Wow.
So I kind of am like going back and forth on this, but really I think the crystallized thought I have on this is that this game wanted to do a lot of different things with its story, and I think it accomplished some of those. But I think if I look at what I didn't like, it's largely mechanical. It had very little to do with what the idea and premise and concept and DNA of the game was. It's more just like, oh, I can't reverse my DI. Sorry, Chris, in the air. Boy, that's annoying. Like just stuff like that, right? So I think my thought is that like if this game were to come out on the Super Nintendo or something, where more of what we've been talking about, like the bar was higher, some of that stuff would have just been like, oh yeah, you can just do that. It would have been a much less frustrating experience, and I would have really liked it.
Yeah, could have been like a
So-
Giga Schlapper.
Yeah, so like I did like this game. I would not have played it outside of book club because I'm like you, Danny. I see a Nintendo game and I'm like, I might watch somebody play this, but otherwise it's just like I'm just gonna suffer through this. I don't want to climb the Tower of Suffer.
I don't want to be the Tower of Suffer.
Like. But I'm glad I played it. I think the art is cool. The music is, maybe not the most inspired, but it has some cool stuff in it. Like the world is cohesive. Everything outside of the mechanics was cool. I was totally fine with it. Just, as we've talked about, a lot of things about it were janky or bumpy or otherwise just grating moment to moment to play. And, that exacerbates and makes things that would be punishing, even more frustrating than they would be otherwise. So anyway,
Look what's happening on the screen.
Yeah,
Hey,
Like, it was the perfect thing for what you were talking about.
for
man.
real.
Like, you're just standing there stabbing there while this dragon's like just blowing fireballs
that's how I beat those
mindlessly.
things too, man.
Yeah,
Watch
I
the
know.
video.
That's the jank. That's the jank, man.
So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
May I
it
add
would've been-
something?
yes.
Okay, so this was mentioned twice, and I meant to say something both times, so I'm going to make a point to do it now. People were talking about not being able to change the trajectory of your jump once you do it.
Yes,
I
your
think-
DI.
Yeah. There's another game that does that too. It's called Castlevania,
Mhm.
but I think that game does it right. It does it.
I agree.
correct. Like, I don't think not being able to control your jump is necessarily bad. It's how you implement it. Because in Castlevania, like, it's not like a fast game like Mario where you're just like woo running and jumping. Like, you have to like look at the situation, assess things, and then plan carefully and commit to your action. and I think it gives that game a certain feeling that maybe this game was trying to accomplish, but just the poor enemy design and weird environments kind of just didn't
Yeah,
allow the jump to accomplish what it's
I
supposed
agree. I can because like there's a lot of enemies that jumped and there are a lot of enemies that spam projectiles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely something that also kind of helps with that is in that game, like you were saying, like looking ahead and like kind of planning it. Also, the vampire killer or the whip, if you will, it hits way further and has kind of like the falling drop attack. This game, you can see the attack animation right now. When you're jumping, it's still that stubby, it's still that quick. So it's like you can't plan to land on a platform and hit the thing that might intercept you. In this game, that shit's gonna hit you.
Right, absolutely. Good point.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said, Super. The fact that the jump can't be manipulated once you leave the ground isn't so much a bad thing. It's just that's a personal preference thing for me. So much of how I play games is like, and this is probably just the melee in my brain talking, but it's like expression through movement, expression through mechanics of the game.
I get it.
You know,
Yeah,
so
it's
the
not
fact
for
that
everybody.
I'm like stuck there. I'm like, but I could fade back and like tipper this idiot, but I,
Yeah,
now I'm
it's just a
gonna jump into
different
him.
it's a different style. It's
Yeah.
just yeah, I get it. To me, it's not like that's good design. If you don't like it, you're wrong. It's a preference, definitely.
Just to quickly add on to what you were saying, Colin, I agree. It would have been interesting to see like a super Faxanadu, like the Super Metroid to Metroid 1, because
for sure.
I think Super Metroid is like significantly better than Metroid. That's
One
kind
of the greatest games ever
yeah,
made.
it's no contest really. So it's would have been interesting because I think this game's shortcomings are, it's all like you said, it's in execution rather than its ideas, because I do think it does have some good ideas. It's just that the execution I thought is just so miserable for me.
Okay, sorry. This is another thought I had earlier that I forgot to share. Was like we're talking like it's perfect what you said just now. Like since this game did do so many things wrong with these specific ideas, it kind of paved the road, right, for future games.
Yeah, it lets
to
you know,
learn
like,
what
hey,
not to do.
don't do it like that.
Yeah. So I think that in itself makes this game important.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Holden, would you like to close us
yeah,
out?
I mean, actually, on that same point, I mean, a big reason why I've told Danny this, maybe a month ago, I forgot. He asked me about some random game I played, and I was like, oh yeah, that game was really bad. And like, I knew it was gonna be pretty bad going into it, and the reason why is like you can learn so much more developmental skills, video game developing skills from playing a bad experience, because you immediately learn the do not do this,
And in your own mind, you start thinking, this is what I would do to correct it, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, this game was always on my list of games to play, and to be honest, I wasn't really looking forward to it. Kind of similar thoughts, like, yeah, I enjoy NES games, but I know there's things to take out of this, but it's probably gonna be pretty high friction. But as I mentioned, going in with that mindset, I was kind of cruising through the game. And I think more importantly, I'm really glad, even though it was kind of tedious for everyone, or mostly everyone. Sounds like you guys weren't just being nice and did have some stuff to take away from it. I mean, man, the opinions in here were so polarizing. Like, I know you guys pretty decently now, and like, it kind of adds up, all your takes. I thought that was really interesting, seeing how everyone tackled everything.
I mean, Chris has a show
the
called
Holden
Hot Takes
Stamp.
for a reason.
Yeah. But overall thoughts, like, the game exceeded the WoW department. Like, I was really wowed. I get wowed from trivial things in video games, like wow, those textures are really cool. But like it for me, it outweighed the negative. And believe me, the negative was frustrating. I did put the controller down a few times. But for me, my objective score of the game is a 6 out of 10. Enjoyed it. It's pretty frustrating. A lot of cool ideas, and yeah, I would love to see a more polished version of this game.
So
Cool.
pretty much what we're saying is now we got to hit wall. We can't hit Hudson with a RIP and B's. We need to hit up some Kickstarter GoFundMe project to make Super Faxanadu for us.
Apparently,
Based-
Falcom has a game called Xanadu next, like for the PC in 2000. I don't even remember. I don't think it
Tokyo.
has any relation, but oh yeah, there's that one too. Tokyo Xanadu or whatever.
Might have some relation story wise. I don't know. They all use the same stuff in all their series, apparently. That's what I read. I didn't read much further than that.
Oh, and I think that was the most frustrating game on my list, if I recall. I remember that, like, looking at this and being like, oh, this is gonna be a stickler for the boys, and that was the number 2.
All right,
If we
actually,
can all beat
that's
this game, then we can beat all of them.
Chris still has Simon's Quest on this wheel that I'm staring at right
We've
now.
name dropped Castlevania multiple times this episode. I think it's time.
It's not gonna
Yeah.
happen. It's not gonna happen.
Dude, if it's
I
number
also have
3,
a
I'm gonna lose
Castlevania.
it.
So I
Yeah.
will ask, because since we are getting there, Holden, Super, would you guys like to add anything since you guys are one down since we have got your picks?
I'm
Oh,
gonna-
so you're
I'm
saying
gonna-
we could fill our blank space?
Yes, like now's the time to do it if you would like to fill your blank space.
I'm personally gonna wait a bit. I want to be fair to the other contestants.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it. Also, yeah, I'll wait.
Okay. All right. So I think it's time. I think this is what everybody literally suffers through our
Ooh, this is
2-hour
the fun part.
discussion to watch.
Mhm.
People get fucking nut
Go
hyped for the
Simon's
wheel.
Quest.
I hope we
dude.
get a
I
pink ammo,
hate-
dude.
I hope we got a pink, dude.
I
You know what we
hate
should do?
how
what we should do?
close. What should we do?
We should use the wheel to decide who talks next when we're discussing.
Oh
And
god.
we could gamble on it in the chat.
The wheels. Then the magic of the
Wheels
wheel
gives
goes
me-
down.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Everybody's favorite part. The wheels. Let me see. Pick a wheel. Here we go.
Hey,
Boom.
how long
Let's.
were you here killing these ghosts, man? Like, come on,
I don't want to talk about it.
play the game.
Oh god.
I had to get max level somehow
Is
when
that
they
all
dropped
the
the red.
games?
Hmm.
That's all the games.
Yeah. So this is all the games minus Faxanadu and Shinobi.
Okay.
Uh,
all right.
If it lands on one of mine, though, you gotta re-roll or
I
respin.
hate how much this hovers around Simon's Quest every time we roll this. It's been twice, and it has scared me to death twice.
I don't know
Oh.
if it's on
Plus,
purpose,
we
but I
got to
don't think
play it.
any of mine are on there.
Oh shit!
I don't know if.
Is
This
this
is
true?
so-
I don't know if it's
Right.
on
Is this true?
purpose.
I don't know if. Well, like I don't know if like because I like joined in on like.
That
a,
is
you know,
true.
like, a higher
Well, this
level,
is the
like-
old wheel. I brought up my bookmark.
That's
I
hilarious.
didn't even know you added games, Star.
Yeah,
He did.
check them out. They're sick.
Okay, hold on. Let's,
I'm
It's
Darth,
just funny. That's like, hey,
I'm
don't
not-
add games, but we're not going to play them. Just add them.
Darth, I will not do you dirty.
I'm like
We
the
will-
I'm the person you give the Tails controller to.
You get the
That's
mad cats.
unplugged.
The unplugged Tails controller. That's wow. That's another low, guys.
Good job, buddy. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Here, I will fix my bookmark.
It's actually like the first video game experience I ever had was playing Tails. So my uncle played Sonic like 2 or whatever
Pretty cool.
on Genesis.
Dang, Darth has some
That's
doinkers
awesome.
on here too.
Yeah, dude. I would really be excited for Pokemon TCG because everybody would have like different decks probably. And that would
I'm
be
very
really cool.
confused. I was literally just looking at that and I'm like, what?
I
That would
played
be
that when
sick.
it came out. I bought it and I played it when it came out and I beat it and I remember enjoying it a lot. But I've never played it again. So it
It's really good.
was a
I
long
think
time ago when it came out. So
That's
They're
I
also
love going
focused.
back to games I played as a kid or whenever, a million years ago.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's
just
I don't know, I
to-
hear a lot of people. I heard someone say the other day, like, "Don't you hate when you go back to something and it's not as good as you remember?"
That is a
Um,
bad
I-
feeling.
It does happen, but it's so infrequent for me. I think I suffer from nostalgia glasses too much. Like I get way too excited.
I just like to think I had good taste back then.
Yeah, that too.
All right, here we go.
All right,
Here
here
we
we go.
go.
And
Let's
I
go.
did a shuffle for the fairness.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Did it?
Let me delete Simon's quest real quick.
So this is every game.
This is every game
Ooh,
now.
Okay.
If we get Mystical Ninja, man, that'd be so sick, dude.
There's gonna be delay.
Well, you have to go again if it lands.
Oh yeah,
on the
don't
lens.
say it. We have to watch Danny.
I knew it.
Oh,
I fucking knew it.
Shit, dude.
I knew because Colin made a comment the last time, well, the previous time I was over there, and he said, "Are you ready to play Croc Legends of the Gobos?" I was like, "This motherfucker just willed it into existence," and he did.
You have to
Oh,
say the full
no,
name
dude.
every time. That's a rule.
Croc
alright.
Legends. So,
Right, it's
ladies
Croc.
and gentlemen, the next official game of Video Game Book Club is Croc Legend of the
Oh,
Gobos.
this is gonna
Yeah.
be fun, dude.
Can't wait for everyone to fucking hate this game.
I
This
have
is
played
PS1?
this
Be
game.
good.
PS1.
Dude, there's no way I'm not gonna fucking like this game. There's no way.
Yeah, for real.
It's gonna be great.
It's come out.
It's like the launch PS1.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like, it gotta be like 95,
Man.
96, something
My,
like
my
that.
2 PS1 games that we got at the time we got the PS1 was Croc and Final Fantasy 7.
This is so
There
good.
might be a little bit
You haven't touched your Croc all day.
Hey, I love Croc. I played the fuck out of that.
it's funny because Croc is the first legitimate PC game I ever got for a PC, and my computer was like a gateway fucking trash box, and it just could not handle it. Like, it did
That's
not
my
have the
experience
specs.
with Glover.
But I struggled
no.
through it, and I remember getting so deep into that game and not knowing what frame rate is, but like struggling through an ice world, and the frame rate was too much, and I just gave up.
That is really funny.
So
Uh,
it will be very interesting to revisit it 900 years later.
I've never played it,
Same.
so I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know if I've ever heard of it.
That's
You're a
tight.
crocodile.
It's Darth. It's a mascot platformer, 3D mascot platformer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Interesting.
unfortunately, Croc never maybe
Use
hit the
Duck
heights.
Station. It's better than a real PS1.
Yeah, maybe it's a conversation to have not on stream, but we can talk about how to get it.
The ideal way.
I mean, as long as you don't literally link it, like.
I don't know, man.
I'm going on
Oh,
eBay
I'll
right
take
now.
Day.
Oh,
Medicine
carry it
Man.
is.
I know a guy who runs this yard
listen,
sale.
Exactly. I was about to say. There's a yard sale, and it's magical.
Is
all
the
you
art
know.
sale
Really?
sell
Yeah.
BIOS?
Of
Anyways.
course they do.
Gentlemen, now that we have decided our next game, we are in for it for the next month. I'm looking forward to it. The anticipation and the gameplay is definitely my favorite part, but the discussion is also really juicy. So I'll have to say, Holden, Colin, Chris, Super, Darth, your first appearance. Thanks everybody for joining me again. This is always a ton of fun. I love hearing all the discussion, all the takes, and one of these days we're gonna get into a fist fight.
Yeah,
But
that's
until then-
that'll be cool.
But it's gonna turn into smooching. I mean, what?
Yeah, it's like those piranha plants. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you smooch.
Sometimes you miss, sometimes you kiss.
That's right. And with that, that's the tagline of this whole discussion.
Darth,
But
I'm happy you
yes.
stuck around for 2 hours. I know you said you maybe had to go.
That's
Thanks
why I
a
was
lot, man.
muted. Like for a certain part, I was just eating potatoes. I was munching them.
Right on Street
How
Fighter
dare
6.
you.
All right, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
was glad to be
fellas, thanks for joining. Everybody in the chat, thanks for watching. And yeah, join us next month for Video Game Book Club / Seriously Casual Episode 3, Croc, and whatever the fuck it was. Legend of the Gobos.
Or something.
All right.
Dude.
All right. Stream. I'll catch you later.
Gobbo D.
Oh,
Hey, thanks, Danielle. See you later.
of course.